one knows. We're going down. We're going down. We're going down. We're going down. Do you dare to follow me down? Head into the unknown.
What's up, everybody? How you doing today? Wednesday. I love how I always start with the just lame. So I was trying to get my head out of Jake and Lily, just because when you obsess about something, you get tunnel vision. So I was trying to, remove myself. Wow. I went and I saw that recently Dire Trip, who I have loved. They had he did a pretty good mass shooting, I guess video. It wasn't a live stream, it was a video. And it was all about Poor Peak, uh, Gabriel Wortman, and that tragic event is what the official RCMP people like to call it, the event. And as soon as I start, the neighbor, so we rented both sides of this duplex. The other side is going to be for our drivers. It's not ready yet. It seems every time I start a live stream, they start doing power tool stuff. So I'm sorry. Shouldn't last long. That is annoying. I apologize. So, anyways, it got me thinking. I knew that there was a public inquiry that resulted from that mass casualty event. And then shortly after that happened, Dylan Ellert went missing. And then other ones in between, obviously, other, serious or violent crimes happened. And so I was wondering about their response, the RCMP response, if any improvements had been made as a result of the Mass Casualty Commission and public inquiry, and they put out this report with all these recommendations and stuff. And here we are 5 years later. It happened in 2020. 5 years later now, 2025, the end of 2025. And I'm curious if any of the recommendations have been implemented. And I thought, what better group to go through it with than this community? Having said that, let's get our hellos done. Hi, Mary and Wolfie. Thanks for being here. And Blue Jay, hey. April D, hi. Nothing new. It's pretty quiet actually with the updates. And being that I think Daniel has been maybe not radio silent, but he has definitely taken a step back. There's not a whole lot of drama going on either. Thankfully, I'm not part of the Facebook stuff. So having said that, maybe there's drama. I wouldn't know even if there was. I guess happy Thanksgiving to all of our neighbors down south. Turkey Day. Hopefully nobody is turkey drunk here today. If you are, have fun. Eat dry bread before you go to bed. And yes, Vincent, We watched a little bit of Vincent yesterday. He has a YouTube channel and apparently has a new Facebook video up. So, hey, Carol, this neighbor, I tell you, I'm all for them getting the work done, but why are we doing it as soon as I go live? Hi, Carol, sorry. Who else do we have here? Robin, good to see you. Lynn, hi, good to see you. Charmaine is doing not terrible today, not bad. Running into issues with supper tonight. My boyfriend's birthday today and had no way to get him anything for supper or a cake. I live in the middle of nowhere without a vehicle. Should have baked a cake. Mm. Who else? Hey, Marie. Antoinette, great to have you with us today. Johnny, hi. Hey, Seawood. Mhm. No, Sunny, probably, if you were ignorant, then she probably would have gotten that. She hasn't really been doing a whole ton of lives. She's working this week, so. And I know this time of year she really gets into Christmas. So she will be watching Hallmark movies daily. Heads up. She will still do YouTube lives, but she's a very Christmassy person. Hey, Sarah. Anyone else? Harley is in the other room. He's just fine. He just came in, got his bone. He's perfectly happy. Hey, true crime junkie. Hey, nurse. And Marlene and Sesame and Cold Burn. Hi. Hey, Nana. And Cindy B. Good to see you. Mattis Catter. I don't see you, but Marie said hi, so I'll say hi too. Gosh, that is terrible. Cindy Clark. Good to see you. Hey, Normalized. Hi, Diesel. And you can't hear it? It's so loud here. Hey, AJ, Melissa. Good to see you. I'm happy you caught it live too, Diesel. Hey, Gren, what's with the name change? You want people to start saying the curse words, damn Grendel? I don't mind, I'll say it. Laurel, good to see you. Too much political interference with the RCMP, you think? Hi from New Brunswick, New Brunswick. Allison, great to see you today. Yeah, I don't know if it's drugs. Apparently he has a brain tumor. It might be pushing on his schizophrenic button repeatedly. I hope he's okay, but he's not well. Neighbor addicted to a leaf blower? That's a little funny. That's funny. Hey, sassy cat. Ellen, good to see you. Jackie and Laverne. Hey, I don't know that I've seen you here before. If you've been here before and I missed you, I apologize, but hello. Hey, Bear Opera. Good to see you. And yes, ma'am. Hi. And Belinda from PEI. Hi. April Lambert. Hi. Oh, interesting. Another new name. Hi from Millbrook, Nova Scotia. Hey, Gail and Crystal. All right. Let me quickly check. Somebody is buzzing me, and usually on Messenger has something to do with my live stream. So let me just see. Oh, some of our stuff showed up today, guys, that we ordered from Amazon. That's great. So the dinosaurs, The kinetic sand and the slime have been delivered. And I can also report that the coats and boots and ski pants have also been delivered to the school. So very well done. Thank you, everybody, for your generosity. We're going to, just one sec. I'm gonna reply. Remember, we're still going to do food hampers for Christmas. And I still don't have my YouTube code to get a hold of that money on the other end. So if you do want to add to the fund for the Christmas hampers at this point, I'm going to ask everybody just to use my PayPal instead of YouTube. Let me just let her know that I'm live right now, and then we will get started. Okay. Okay. Couple other things. Hey, Jen. What are you saying? Thank you so much for sharing the video yesterday. I felt nothing but love and compassion. Yeah, and really, scared. Number one, scared for his well-being and scared for the information that he was putting out that they were going to, certain people were going to run with it. But hopefully we added to putting a roadblock up to that. Hopefully. I know my community is small, but I'm hoping. But having said that, you guys blew my mind. I got so many views on that video yesterday with Travis, and I think looking back, I think maybe my title alluded to maybe having more court documents, but I didn't intentionally do clickbait with that at all. Like we literally went through the court documents and the Missing Persons Act with Travis, which I was cut off yesterday. I wanted to thank Travis so much for joining me. I always love having Travis on with me. It doesn't matter if I'm on Sunny's channel or T's channel or this channel. Travis is a wealth of knowledge and I am a sponge for it. I absolutely love it. So I wanted to, take more time to thank him. Like really appreciate all the knowledge and time that he gives to us. Um, So anyways, and then I also wanted to give that update about the donations yesterday, but my furniture arrived and I had to cut it short. So we did get most of the stuff that we ordered in. School got the coats. All the toys for Secret Santa are almost in. I think we're waiting for the LOL doll. So those will be donated right quickly. And then so we're still doing the food hampers coming up in a couple of weeks. So we'll keep that giving train going, and hopefully it's just a little bit of light in the dark world that we're living in here with the Jack and Lily disappearance. And today, unfortunately, is probably going to get a little bit worse. Um, yeah. All right. I watched a YouTube channel last night that made me disgusted. The reactions and comments made won't say who, but honestly vile behavior by the creator and the chatters. Yeah, I wonder who that was. I don't know who that was. Doesn't surprise me though. The community it's not well right now. I feel like it's not a good place right now. Thank you. And it has everything to do with my members, the people who donated. Obviously I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. So thank all the members, every single person that donated. Every one of you deserves huge kudos. Huge. And it's terrifying to say, but children are being sold. It's, I mean, it's not impossible. Nikki, hi, I haven't seen you before either. Listening from Urbana, Illinois, is that right? I'm glad you have your own channel. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you so much. People are losing their peace. Yeah. And getting swallowed up because the RCMP is not giving updates. There's no information coming out to satisfy the public's. It's not even curiosity anymore at this point. We're all so invested, and I think that the RCMP would serve themselves well by giving more updates. You don't have to be completely transparent. We do know and understand the country that we live in. However, there are things that could be some of the rumors that could be put to rest by a simple media release. It could even just be a memo addressing some of this stuff, right? But for whatever reason, they're not doing it. Jason, maybe, and not everybody has the same belief system, but I mean, maybe. Hey, Squid. Halifax to Pictou again, listening in. Excellent. We're going to look at Dylan today. Actually, his name is Dylan Eller, not Ether. But yeah. Who are you guys talking about, Gren? Text me. Tell me who you're talking about. Yes, I know you're new here, Jason, but we know all about these cases. We truly do. We truly do. And we'll get into as much as we can. There's a lot of information, but you know, we can't dive into every single case today. So we are aware of Darius McDougall from Crow's Nest Pass. We are aware of Dylan Eller from Nova Scotia. And so for today, we're going to, hey, oh, that's Jen. Hey, Justin, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Anyway, switching gears. Thank you everybody for all your donations. It all went to the right places, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep doing positive things in this dark, dark world. So first, so I think number one, you guys seriously can't hear that. It is so distracting for me. Okay. Okay, this is Dylan Eller. So we're going to go in chronological order, okay? I want to watch. Where did it go? I want to watch. It's like an 8-minute video, and it's about Portapic. You know, to everybody to either remind you or to let you know what we're talking about before we get into that public inquiry and the findings of the Mass Casualty Commission that they had appointed to look into the RCMP response and the lessons learned. And usually when you do a lessons learned, you have it's like a corrective action log where as these recommendations are implemented, it shows tangible proof that they've been implemented. Not only that they're being effective, right? And like I said, this came out in 2021. It happened in 2020. The report came out 2021. We're at the end of 2025. So at the end of this live stream, we're going to come back and we're going to say, okay, have any of these recommendations been implemented as far as RCMP response goes? And I don't think that we're going to be terribly surprised. I'm so sorry I'm getting rid of your comment, Justin, but I really appreciate you being here. Love it. Ready? I'll mute myself and here we go.
On the night of April 18th, 2020, Portapic, Nova Scotia, a village of about 100 residents on the Bay of Fundy, became the starting point of what would become a shooting rampage. It would last more than 13 hours, spanning across a more than 100-kilometer area, with victims' bodies strewn across 16 crime scenes. By analyzing RCMP statements, interviews, GPS coordinates, and records, we were able to paint perhaps the most comprehensive picture to date of how the worst mass shooting in Canadian history unfolded. We confirm with several sources that prior to 10 p.m., gunman Gabriel Wortman allegedly assaults and ties up his longtime girlfriend in Portapic, 40 kilometers west of the small town of Truro, after leaving a party. At an unknown time, she escapes and hides in the woods. Police receive a 911 call about a shooting in rural Portapic. 25 minutes later, officers arrive on scene and find bodies on the road and buildings on fire.
With there uplifting the fire, checking out the fire, so there could be other things around the fire that could be gone already.
According to property records we obtained, Jamie and Greg Blair, Peter and Joy Bond, Corey Ellison, Lisa McCulley, Jolene Oliver, Aaron Tuck, and their daughter 17-year-old Emily Tuck, Don Madsen and Frank Gulichin, Elizabeth Joan Thomas, and John Zal.
The devastation there has been described as a war zone by people that I speak to that have been in there. The devastation that's there is just catastrophic.
At 10:35 p.m., a witness sees a vehicle believed to be the gunman's leaving Portapic through a field. At this point, police believe the gunman is in a replica Rcmp cruiser.
The gunman was a bit obsessed with policing. He was a collector of police memorabilia and paraphernalia.
The gunman then heads east and arrives in an industrial area in the community of Debert, about 26 kilometers from the scene of the first shootings. At 11:32 p.m., Nova Scotia Rcmp announced on Twitter they are responding to a firearms complaint in Portapic and ask people to avoid the area and lock their doors. Rcmp issued no public alert or additional statement on Twitter for 8 hours. What the gunman did overnight remains unknown. At the crack of dawn, the gunman leaves Debert and travels north along Highway 4. He is captured on video entering the Wentworth area, roughly 60 kilometers north of Portapic. He heads to a home on Hunter Road, where he kills 2 men and a woman, believed to be Alana Jenkins, Sean McLeod, and their neighbor Tom Bagley. He remains at the victim's home for some time, according to police. Around the same time, his common-law spouse comes out of hiding and calls 911, telling police Wortman assaulted her before the killing rampage, has several firearms, and that he is wearing an authentic Rcmp uniform and is driving a replica Rcmp vehicle. Rcmp say on Twitter the Portapic situation involves an active shooter. Almost an hour later, Rcmp release a photo of the gunman on Twitter and say he is considered armed and dangerous.
I almost lost sense of where I was, not because it didn't seem real, but because it didn't seem like this is something that would happen in Canada. It felt like something, out of a movie, and I really felt like I wasn't in Nova Scotia. There was that kind of effect on me that it couldn't be real.
At 9:43 a.m., the gunman is spotted at Highway 4 and Highway 246. He kills a woman, believed to be Lillian Hislop, who is walking along the highway in Wentworth Valley area. Police say the gunman drives south to a home on Highway 4 in the Glenholm area. The residents call 911, saying they know the shooter. They do not answer the door, and he eventually leaves.
Judging from what we know now, there has to be some element of planning that goes into this because it appears he did have targets that were identified.
Video captures the gunman driving east in Debert. Rcmp tweet that people should avoid Highway 4 in Glenholm as the gunman is in the area. The shooter continues northbound on Highway 4 and reaches Plains Road in Debert, close to where he had reportedly stayed overnight. He pulls over a car and kills the driver. He continues along the highway and does the same to a second driver. The victims are believed to be Kristen Beaton and Heather O'Brien. Shortly after, the gunman is captured on video passing through Truro. He takes Highway 2 to Millbrook. Police shared publicly for the first time on Twitter that the gunman may be driving a vehicle that looks like an RCMP cruiser and wearing what appears to be an RCMP uniform. At 10:25 a.m., the assailant stops outside a business in Millbrook First Nation, gets out of the vehicle, removes his jacket and puts on a reflective vest, then continues south on Highway 2 through Hilden. The gunman is captured on surveillance video taken at Brookfield Esso Station. 17 minutes later, the gunman pulls up alongside RCMP Constable Chad Morrison in Shubenacadie. The gunman shoots Morrison, but not fatally. Moments later, the gunman collides head-on with Constable Heidi Stevenson. He fatally shoots Stevenson and takes her weapon. A bystander, believed to be Joey Weber, arrives to help but is killed by the gunman. The gunman takes Weber's silver SUV. Shortly after, the RCMP tweet the gunman is traveling south on Highway 102 from Brookfield. He arrives at the home of a female acquaintance believed to be Gina Goulet. He kills her and leaves, driving her Mazda 3.
I was driving north and towards the Brookfield area. It's probably halfway to Portapique when I started seeing just a stream of officers, some in marked cruisers, unmarked cars flying at me. Maybe 15, 20 cars. It felt like, the Daytona 500. They were just whipping by. So at that point, I kind of knew that I was maybe in the vicinity of where this gunman was.
The gunman continues moving south on Highway 102 and stops at Irving Big Stop gas station in Enfield, about 100 kilometers south of Portapique, to refuel. RCMP say tactical officers also arrived to refuel, and there is an encounter with the gunman. Wortman was shot dead by police at 11:26 a.m.
Probably 50 cars and hundreds of police officers were around there. At that point, one of the officers that was setting up a barricade, I asked, "Did you guys catch him?" And he just shook his head and then said yes. Today, you hear of mass shootings that happen in, moments, in maybe 13 minutes, not 13 hours.
In total, Wortman traveled at least 150 kilometers during his rampage. 22 lives were lost. It was the worst mass shooting in Canada's modern history. Thanks for watching. To stay up to date on the latest breaking national and
Crazy. So I know a number of you live in the area, were, if not directly affected, were terrified. It was, I couldn't imagine, this happening in my community. And there was another one, I believe the guy's name was Jason or Justin, but he was basically hunting law enforcement. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think he ended up shooting 4. And then there was one in Alberta as well, the Fallen 4 Marathon tragedy, where they individual ambushed, I guess, 4 young RCMP officers. So it happens everywhere, but this case obviously is different because he was shooting people. Seems people that at first people that he knew, and then just indiscriminately whoever crossed his path. And how tragic and frightening that must have been for you all. So that's why I put a trigger warning in the description, because I know this brings back a lot of terrible memories for you all. And I don't want to upset anybody. And
16 crime scenes. By analyzing RCMP.
yeah, but that's not the intention here, obviously. Picton actually is from BC. He's a serial killer. We're looking at, what was his name? I knew it because Rosca. His son and grandson have a company, and you still see their trucks everywhere. But that's besides the point. But his name was Rosca. I can't remember his first name. He doesn't deserve to be remembered. Roscoe, correct. Right, Roscoe. It's Mayerthorpe was less than an hour from where I lived and 15 minutes from where Sonny lived at that time. So, I mean, we have experienced some of the same, but very rural communities, right? And it's not like it is a straight shot to where I lived and to where Sonny lived, but it was so far removed. I mean, I wasn't worried for my own safety, and I don't think that Sonny was worried about her personal safety. But so, okay, the aftermath of this, we all remember, and if you weren't, if you didn't pay attention to this case as it was going on, we were all stuck to Twitter because the RCMP thought that the best place to give updates was through Twitter. And there wasn't any kind of intrusive alert that was sent out. I don't want to give out false information. He's not in jail. He killed himself, just like Gabriel Wortman. He's not in jail. Now, the two that aided and abetted him, even if you believe that they didn't do it knowingly, they did serve time, and I'm pretty sure they're out now, but I could be wrong. But there were two people that were arrested, tried, and convicted for, yeah. But anyways, yeah, monster of Miramichi, absolutely. Focus, you guys. Focus, you guys. Anyways, so where was I? Twitter. They were given updates on Twitter, but had they done something like an intrusive alert, sent out an alert, a lot of these victims wouldn't have been on the road or in their yard or at gas stations. They wouldn't have been out there to be shot if the RCMP had just alerted the public better. It's terrible to think that all of these lives could have been saved by a little bit of a different response. And I would just like to say before I go any further, when I was in college and I was doing criminal justice and criminology and all of that, one of the biggest focuses was community policing. It's and I don't know if it's part of the curriculum still, but back then it's a huge part of entering into law enforcement. It's community policing. You're more successful as an officer if you have the public's trust, and it seems like that has really fallen to the wayside. And I don't know if it's a generational thing or if it's not part of the curriculum anymore, or if I don't know the ages and the history of the law enforcement officers. And I that's all my personal opinion, but very, very much community policing oriented in college. And I don't know what happens to our theory based training and education once we get on the job, right? Something happens there. There's some kind of a disconnect, and it's it's beyond tragic. It's sad. So, anyways, at the end of this, and the aftermath was like, okay, what went wrong? And immediately realized, okay, Twitter is probably not the best idea. But as all of this was taking place, I believe Dylan Eller, just a few weeks later, disappeared out of thin air. Basically, he was dropped off at his grandmother's house, and she wanted to go outside and play with him. And she turned her back for just a few seconds to go chain her dog, put the dog on the lead. And when she turned around, Dylan wasn't there. Now, I don't know a whole lot about this case, but I do know that the Truro police were in charge of the investigation, but they also called the RCMP in for assistance. And I know that Dylan's boots were found in a brook that was very nearby Grandma's house. The boots weren't together. One was further down stream or whatever. And the parents, I think, they're worried that Dylan was taken. But to me, and just my opinion only, it looks to me very likely that he was swept away. And from what I understand, that brook leads eventually into the Bay of Fundy. Now, having said that, the boots being washed up or caught up and a little boy's, 3-year-old boy's body not being stuck or found, and made it all the way through to the Bay of Fundy and into the Atlantic is it's a stretch, but it's not impossible. So I just wanted to put that out there just as my own uninformed opinion, just, surface level opinion. And yes, W5 did have um, a very good documentary on it. Things like W5 and the Fifth Estate, they always do really great work. But if I play it on here, then it's not only just a copyright strike, they mute your videos. So I can't play a whole lot of their stuff on here, but we can watch a little clip. And before we get into the findings of the public inquiry on the mass casualty event, I wanna get into Dylan because it happened before the lessons learned were done of this Portapic Gabriel Workman deal. Okay, so we're gonna kind of look at it as it happened, right? The best we can, the best in my, an organized brain. This one. Okay, so I gave you the rundown of the Dylan, right? What basically happened with him. And now this one is super small, but this is kind of another public inquiry about questioning about Dylan Eller. Okay. And this is interesting to me. This one part here is very interesting to me. And I'm not sure if I have to reshare the audio. I think I did. If you don't hear it, please let me know immediately if you can't hear this. Okay. I got to mute myself.
Developed anything like that?
We've discussed it internally, but to be honest, we haven't put pen to paper yet, but we are planning to do that.
Have you ever asked EMO for an alert?
Yep.
And when and why?
We had a missing child in 2020, and we did ask for an alert to be put out at that point in time. However, it didn't meet the criteria for a full alert ready, but they were very good to deal with, and they did suggest there's two types of alerts. There's an intrusive alert, which goes out to everybody en masse. You would see that, and we've seen it recently with storms or whatever would come out across your cell phone and would go your TV at home. And then there's a non-intrusive alert, which is given to media and social media platforms, and that's what this criteria was. They wanted to help, but they couldn't put a full alert out. But this is the option they put forward, so we took them up on it.
So by full alert, you mean an intrusive alert?
Correct. Yeah.
And what was the reason why it didn't qualify? Is that because of the situation the child was in?
Yeah, correct.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so there's people get confused all the time with ready alert, alert ready, and Amber alert. So there's two different programs. So an Amber alert is if there's suggested criminality, like a child was abducted or something of that nature. In this case, there was no suggestion of criminality. So the province said, look, we'd still like to help you. We can't put out a full Amber alert for this. It doesn't meet the criteria. Really doesn't meet the alert ready full on alert, but we can do a non-intrusive alert for you. So that was something they offered and we took them up on.
So that was because the child was lost as opposed to taken?
Correct, yeah.
And was the child found?
No, not yet.
If you were in a situation where you were considering requesting an alert, would you consider the impact on the 911 system? And if so, how?
There was no stone left unturned.
Dave McNeil is the chief of the Truro Police Department. He sat down with W5 for a wide-ranging interview about the critical hours after Dylan vanished.
Why was an Amber Alert not issued when Dylan disappeared?
So an Amber Alert's only reserved for when there's a confirmed criminality. There's a very strict criteria that's used in issuing an Amber Alert. So this case didn't rise to that.
You're saying that there has to be proof of criminality before an Amber
There has to be evidence of criminality, yeah, or an abduction or something of that nature. Amber Alerts are used for only a very small percentage of cases, and they're reserved for very specific cases.
And so what's called a non-intrusive public alert was sent out by the province's EMO, the Emergency Management Office, but not until 4:32 p.m. Dylan was reported missing to police at 1:24.
Why would there be a delay of more than 3 hours before the public is alerted that a 3-year-old boy is missing?
Well, the public was alerted. They just, the non-intrusive alert took some time to get out through EMO, and that's outside of our control. That's with EMO.
But the EMO couldn't send out its alert until directed to do so by police. The EMO tells W5 they received the approved message from Truro Police about the missing child at 4:13 p.m. 19 minutes later, at 4:32, the alert went out. That means it took police 2 hours and 49 minutes to relay information to the emergency office that a 3-year-old was missing.
You feel confident that the public was alerted quickly enough
Yeah,
that this boy
absolutely.
had disappeared?
Absolutely. Local radio, local Facebook pages, Town of Truro website, Town of Truro Facebook page, Police Service Facebook page. It's a small community, so those networks are actually more effective locally than another type of alert. So those were done very shortly after we established that the young fellow was missing.
So a press release was sent out to all those agencies saying that
I don't think a press release formal was out, but definitely messaging on a phone call to radio and social media pages for sure.
In fact, there is no record of any alerts or advisories on the Truro Police or town Facebook pages on May 6, 2020, the day Dylan disappeared. The town Twitter account did tweet out Dylan's disappearance within an hour. There were questions online about why a public alert wasn't being issued.
clearly, like, time is of the essence in a disappearance, especially of a 3-year-old.
For sure.
You know that there's water around there. You know that there's a busy street.
That's right.
Seems like there was some delay in taking this seriously.
I'll be absolutely clear with you. There was no hesitation. Police were there within 5 minutes of the call. Supervisor was there within 8 to 10 minutes of the call.
Yeah. No.
CTV's W5.
So my thought, I just don't, I'd like to be able to play this one, you guys. I just, so from what I understand, the closest police department did, I'm not from the area. So I don't know if Truro is the closest police force, if they, you know, because like we've talked about before, most rural counties, little towns and hamlets, they'll be under the jurisdiction of the RCMP. So I think that Truro was the closest police service, and they did respond. So Laddie says that Bible Hill is Truro, basically. Good to know. Okay, so in Roots, I know she is local as well. So Truro Town Police Jurisdiction, but Bible Hill RCMP also responded, and they did work together, and that's why I'm lumping the RCMP into the Dillon case just as much as I'm putting them into the Portapig. So Jen thinks the RCMP are aiding criminals, witting or unwitting. Arguably, one could say that based on what we've seen. I guess I could do that, eh? Put a link in the chat. Put a link in the chat, eh? And they call it a bizarre disappearance, but I feel like it's not as bizarre as Jack and Lily. Because if you look at the water, the brook, it is pretty fast moving in spots. And a 3-year-old little boy, you guys, doesn't weigh much. Doesn't weigh much. I always go back to the neighbor and what they said. I believe the truth lays between the day of the assault charge and the day reported missing. Go and watch. I put it in the chat. Go and watch the W5 because it does shed some light on the history of the family, even the days leading up to the disappearance. But they're, you know, I don't know. To me, they're acting like the parents of a missing child who they don't know where he is. That's what they're acting like to me. Darius McDougall, there are no updates on that. I am still working with Vanessa, trying to get her to come up. She's super busy when she's not working and taking care of her home life. She's out doing stuff for this case, right? She's raising awareness. She's doing poster campaigns, and she does have help, but she's heading it all up. So getting her on, I think, is going to be a challenge, but she is very willing. So it will happen, but no updates, sadly. Daniel and Jason were sharing messages in Facebook. Did you all discuss that? No. Where did you hear that? Because I can definitely reach out and ask Daniel about that. You guys, the chat is moving fast. Kids are fast. You can't take your eyes off of them. Some say the grandma had something to do with it. Again, I've been in the situation where I'm taking my grandkids outside and I have to turn my back for a second, even though, me being in true crime, that would never happen outside of a fenced area. I'm too paranoid for that, but I mean, I sadly I could see it. I don't think that there's, and I could be wrong, but to me, surface level, I don't see much in the way of making shit up in this part of it. I know that Jason had some mental issues after his son disappeared. So, it's so hard to, without being, entrenched the same as we are with Jack and Lily, it's hard to cast judgment on these people because at face value, I believe them. Yeah, well, Jason Eller drove to Truro last minute to hold a balloon launch the night before Jack and Lily went missing, and he's friends with Janice Potty, who is tied to both cases and he's friends with. That's interesting. That's interesting. You have screenshots? I would love to see those. And up until, and still, I mean, full transparency, I support law enforcement. I do. I am on the side of law enforcement in most cases, but I question these recommendations and lessons learned. Why are things still being handled in such a way that we don't have any transparency? We don't have anybody coming out putting rumors to rest. And I understand there's not the level of public threat that there was in Portapic. However, there are people being threatened. There are lives that are being ruined. There is a lot going on that the Rcmp could address, and they could quell a lot of it by just putting out a memo, putting out a statement, something. Give us something concrete to talk about. Hey, Erin. Hi, Charmaine. Thank you. Wishing you all the best. Do you remember, or did you see when Daniel was asked in a chat if he followed true crime? He answered something like true crime, 5 years. Yes, I know that Daniel has been interested in true crime. Hey, shenanigans, wherever you are. I'm sure you heard by now, but you were almost mistaken for somebody who recently came up. Glad we got to the bottom of that before things started getting thrown your way. Jason says a lot going on, and I was told that Jason would be happy to speak to me. I just don't want to bring somebody up that I have absolutely no idea about their case. Like, very surface level. Very much I watch a few YouTube things. No digging, put it that way. He inhibited Dylan's case repeatedly. I'd like to know how. And I'm not being facetious with you guys. I'm truly, curious. Marie Antoinette Jason was there because of Please Bring Me Home. Yes, I did see Please Bring Me Home was involved in the Dylan Eller case as well. I know Dylan's dad found a shirt or a raincoat recently. Do you know if it was Dylan's? Not a clue. That's interesting. Hopefully he turned it over to the Rcmp. Root strength, it was Dylan's balloon launcher, thinking of the wrong date. All right. There's no way that he left the backyard and went down towards the brook on his own without hurting himself. I searched the whole area. A lot of us did. Okay. I believe you. It's a you gotta be there moment. I mean, if you're ever back in the area or if you did take video, feel free to send it my way. And I'd be happy to, look at it, show it, just so that we have a better idea. Because I mean, you could very well be right. There could be if grandma is being truthful and it was literally only like 2 minutes or less, then I mean that little 3-year-old would have had to haul ass, right? And you might be right. I'd like to see it. Hey, Mama G. Isn't Janice Potty doing all the screaming when she was told to leave Wayne Mackenzie's property? Yes. Rcmp being quiet is good. They may be waiting for someone to say something that they know that only the criminal would know. I agree, but what I'm saying, Murdoch, is some of the rumors, the things that are just absolutely false, they could address that. And I know that it's a different country, but in the Idaho 4, there were rumors running rampant, and the police actually took some of those rumors and put it into a statement, and they stood in front of the camera and said, look, they were not tied up. The fraternity did not, have involvement. There were a number of things that they addressed that was going around in YouTube and social media. The police actually addressed those rumors and put them to rest. And I'm saying that they could do the same thing here and do a world of good. To me, I do not want to have him on a live. I mean, if he's having a good day, I'll be following up on that for sure. Would you be willing to put maybe on a members what your current theory is? You seem so on the ball with all the facts. I mean, with Jack and Lily? No, I wouldn't, because I was not expecting my channel to grow the way it did. And I certainly did not expect to have the number of members that I do. And I don't know who all of the members are. And I would love to be able to share my thoughts and opinions with everybody, but I feel like it would be a disservice to the community because I don't want you all just to think that I know more than anybody, so you're gonna go along with my thoughts and theories. I think that it would be bad. Now, if you wanted to talk about the case with me privately over Messenger, feel free to reach out to me. I have no problem discussing it there. But I wouldn't do it in a recorded video because, I mean, I could be wrong. And I'm not the person that's gonna wanna put something out there that I might have to apologize for later. So, that's why I'm here, right? That's why I'm all by myself. The idea of pulled over by a cop still distresses me. I wouldn't want to oblige. I always use cruise control now just in case, to be honest, yeah. And there is what was it? There was something, and I just read it, and there was actually, um, uh, wasn't an alert. I don't remember what it was, but something went around Calgary years ago where women were told not to pull over for any for any policeman to drive to the nearest open business and pull in there if they were being pulled over. Like, do not pull over on a secluded street or on a highway or anything like that. Pull into an open business and pull over there, and the officer will deal with you there. And that is terrifying. Could you imagine? That is terrifying. And still me to this day, if the lights went on behind me, I would just pull over. I wouldn't think twice about it, but you never know. It's a sad, scary world, man. I am so behind in chat. Message me or something, Char. Give me an email address. Scrolling across the bottom, April. We don't do deception detective here, so 18 seconds. Wow. And I'm changing it again, just a heads up to Grendel Gen X. Okay, cool. My TikTok handle is Char Gen X. So I remember Alan Leger, sorry, when he escaped, not far from where he lived. So my brother and I are writing a book, and our first full chapter is about the monster of Miramichi. It's a crazy story, absolutely, especially his escape is fucked up. Hey, Deanna. Didn't Jason make a drunk TikTok saying he held Dylan underwater and then later said he was just drunk? Yeah, and there was something else to that too that he did. And I I mean, this is like somebody, he told the police that, and they didn't take him seriously, and instead they committed him to a mental institution on what was like a 72-hour hold or something. You know, like, you know about the boots? I don't. Wish it did. I am questioning just how cases were handled. Yeah. Hi, Shar. Thank you for your time and so much love. Looking beautiful. Thank you, Brett. That's so nice of you. Hey, house music. Anybody else that I've missed? And Cool J. I don't think the RCMP wants to dispel rumors right now. They're using them as an investigative tactic, in my opinion. Yeah, but I feel like I know exactly what you're saying. I'm going to leave it at that. And I don't disagree with you, but there are certain things that I think that they could put to rest. Say just for a second, just pretend with me that the RCMP come out and say there's absolutely no evidence that the children were taken by anybody they knew and being hidden on a reservation. Say they came out and said that they knew that they were sure of that. Their investigation hasn't led to any of that specific theory. Then what would these people do? Where would they go next? It might open some doors for them. You know what I'm saying? Like if a cop slams that door in their face, they would have to go somewhere else. You pick up what I'm laying down. It would also shut these menaces up. Just saying. At the end of Elizabeth Street, there's a deep ditch and the pavement goes into the dirt four-wheeler path. Quite a lot of water flows through there during a thunderstorm. What are you talking about, Dylan? If you want to discover Dylan's case fully, I would like to have a few people work with you. If interested, I will email you later the names and contact. Sure, absolutely. Keep in mind, Marie, though, that Jack and Lily is my main focus. And because things have kind of stalled right now in the investigation, we're still talking about them and we're still trying to put pressure where pressure needs to be. I believe right now that pressure needs to be on the RCMP to give us more. You don't have to release your investigative leads or anything like that, but you can put to rest some of this ridiculous speculation. You can do that. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to shed a light on the lessons learned that aren't being implemented. And we're going to have to go through that real soon. Thank you. I had my own group, still have everything. Beautiful. Yeah, you could do that, but if they want to pull you over, they're not going to. If they pull you over and you have taken them on like a little slow speed chase into a 24-hour 7-Eleven parking lot, and you're like a woman or a vulnerable person, and you can look up at them and say, I'm sorry, but I was scared, and you throw Porta-Pick in their face, they're not going to give a shit. They're just not. I don't think so. Investigative tactics like this are great until vigilante justice hits the innocent, and that's kind of what I'm saying. There are a lot of innocent people that are being accused of some crazy things right now. Yeah, I don't know. How they handle missing children's cases. Yes, and if you have not seen on my community page, I've got a link to Darius's law, and that is Amber Alert Reform, National Amber Alert Reform. So go read about that, sign the petition. They should do that. Just had a cop tamper with my car in New Brunswick. What? Say what? I have to clear my name on the documentary and tell my story. Jason screwed me. You need to reach out to me, April. Yes, Crime Stoppers, guys. Download the P3 Tips app. Jason was placed in the loony bin for the night for his moment of insanity, as he calls it. There's no evidence of a crime. Need evidence to prove they did harm Dylan, right? Same as Jack and Lily, you guys. Same as Jack and Lily, but hope we're not still here in 5 years talking about where is Jack and Lily. Because I can guarantee you they didn't get swept away in a brook into the Bay of Fundy. They didn't. Yeah, he did. So I put the link to this here, and I'll do it one more time. It's the W5 documentary on Dylan Eller. It's got all that information in it. Explore anybody else that's interested. But I'm going to scroll really quickly down to the bottom. What? This sounds like a rabbit hole that I may or may not want to go into, but I'll entertain it just because we got to find Darius too, you guys. Hey, Phoenix, I don't know. I have a very hard time trusting the Rcmp with any information besides just trusting them at all. So you need to say anything. Say anything, guys. I support law enforcement. I truly do. But right now, you guys are making it hard. It's almost as hard to defend Daniel as it is to defend what's going on right now. He shut me up legally. I know I was closer to something. Okay. Were you accusing him of doing something? Because, I mean, that's going on here too. And I'm a little surprised that certain people haven't been hit with a cease and desist. You know, that's going on here too. You cannot accuse anybody of anything if they haven't been charged. So I feel we all need to be careful with our theories. People have been known to self-harm and unalive themselves due to distress and pressure. They were then found to be innocent. Exactly. I would not want that on my conscience, nor do I want to have to look, no offense, but I don't want to have to look Daniel in the eye one day and say, hey, dude, sorry, I thought you did terrible things. I'm not saying that whatsoever. And I wouldn't. I have accused him of being inconsistent because he has been. But beyond that, I have no idea what happened to Jack and Lily. Yes, I have my own theories and speculation, but I am not throwing blame at anybody for hurting children. Whatever happened to bugging homes and cars, is that still a thing or not? Only in the States and only under the Mr. Big operations here in Canada. They're allowed to entrap people. So, like, they'll befriend the suspect and try to get like a confession or whatever, and they can videotape that, and that is admissible. So that happens. Don't know if it's happening here now, but yeah. I thought Durwood was giving the RCMP 7 days to do something. He was going to share what they said, something like that. Sure did. Crickets. And I mean, I called it, even if there was anything to it, like Durwood sat on national news and called them a bunch of incompetent, arrogant clowns. So, like, he's called me worse, but if he asked me or gave me an ultimatum at this point, I'd be like, eat me. There's no respect there. Why would they do anything for him? If you want, yeah. Yep. She certainly does if you only knew who she is. What am I saying? Thank you, Explorer. There's a petition for Amber Alert reform. If you're in Canada, you need to sign it. You just need to sign it. Don't throw Portapic in their face. That will make some officers very upset. The mistakes made were at the administrative level, not so much the cops on the ground. Absolutely. And I'm not doing that. However, disclaimer, Charmaine is squeaky clean. Okay. If I get arrested someday for some trumped up charge, or if anything happens to me, just know that I don't have a criminal record. I don't have a violent past. I don't have drug history. I don't use drugs. I don't drink alcohol. I'm squeaky clean. So if I get framed because of this live, just putting it out there. You guys will have to start your own channel and find out what happened to me. I keep wondering how we could put more pressure on them to say something. It's not hard. It's hard not being there. A lot of the people locally believe Daniel was innocent. Have you heard that? I have not heard that. Joe has complete faith and confidence in the RCMP, especially Corporal Carly McCann. Joe's from the United States. Hey, P. Spice. Also, the Dylan case is pretty wild. If you decide to jump into it, protect yourself. Teflon, man. These wackos on YouTube don't scare me. Dylan's dad is something else. Shake my head. He asks strangers for money all the time, and 1 hour he's posting how happy he is. Then he's homeless, broke, and not going to make it to morning. I can't with him. Obviously unstable. Who's the clown? According to RCMP, or sorry, according to Durwood, it's the RCMP. But then had the audacity to ask them for a favor to release his statement to the public. What did Durwood say he thought on the 7th day? I don't know. In my opinion, there is a modern day Mr. Big of sorts being played on Danny Boy. Have anything to do with Facebook chat groups? According to Durwood, he did. If he didn't, he would be probably charged with obstruction. You know what I'm saying? If he's got information and he's holding back information that could lead to Jack and Lily, yeah, I don't know that I care, Jesse. I mean, in my opinion, the man is a lunatic, so. I've heard it, but I've also heard that people don't want to get involved because of the Mackenzie and Martell name. I think it may be more than that. Brookie Cookie Butterfly, at least you're here. I appreciate that. Anybody want to get into the this? Wonder just one sec. Did we watch this one? No, this is the whole thing. That's right. We want to get rid of that. We're gonna do this. We watched that. This one isn't too terribly long, but this is about grandma in the Dylan other case. And then as soon as we're done that, we're going to get into the report, the big report. And then we're gonna bring it back and we're gonna talk about Jack and Lily and how the lessons learned were applied to the initial response to Jack and Lily's disappearance.
This is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Dylan Ehler. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Dylan John Ehler was born on April 16, 2017, in Truro, Nova Scotia, Canada. His mother's name was Ashley Brown, and his father's name was Jason Ehler. From a previous relationship, Ashley had a daughter named Lily. After becoming romantically involved with Jason, the couple moved into a house together in the Bible Hill neighborhood of Truro. Ashley worked as a detailer at a Hyundai dealership about a mile from her house. Jason delivered water bottles for a company called Canadian Springs. Both Ashley and Jason were charged with defrauding the Canadian government out of $55,000. They allegedly claimed welfare benefits they should not have received. However, the charges were later dropped. Jason was once arrested for shoplifting from a gas station and, during a separate incident, arrested for shoplifting from a liquor store. By May 2020, Ashley and Jason had been temporarily laid off from their jobs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They spent a lot of time in their house with Ashley's daughter Lily, who went to school online, and their son Dylan, who had just turned 3 1 month earlier. The family was under financial stress and having a bizarre conflict with the neighbors who believed that Jason kept hitting their house with eggs. Now, moving to the timeline of the incident. On May 2, 2020, Ashley physically struck Jason while they were in their house. Jason responded by threatening to kill Ashley and smashing her phone on the tile floor in the kitchen. Someone outside the house called the police. Ashley was charged with assault, and Jason was charged with mischief and making a threat. These charges would later be dismissed after the couple attended a counseling program, but in the immediate aftermath, a temporary no contact order was put in place. Jason ended up staying with his parents about 15 minutes away from the family house. Ashley's mother, Dorothy Parsons, functioned as a go between so both Ashley and Jason could spend time with their son Dylan. Dorothy lived in a house on the corner of Queen Street and Elizabeth Street in Truro, in a neighborhood that was described as dangerous and unpleasant. Drug raids, theft, and disturbances were common during that time. On May 6, 2020, Ashley received a text message from a friend inviting her to come over for coffee. This was a welcome invitation because Ashley was not accustomed to caring for Dylan alone. Ashley drove Dylan over to Dorothy's house so that Dorothy could babysit him. At about 11 a.m., Ashley left Dorothy's house to go see her friend. At some point, Dorothy took Dylan to her yard along with her pet dog. This yard contained a picnic table and a deep freezer. It had a fence, but this fence did not completely surround the yard. The fence did not cross the driveway. A person could easily walk out of the yard onto the driveway, then onto Elizabeth Street. Furthermore, there was a break in the fence at the northeast corner of the property, which also led to Elizabeth Street. According to Dorothy, at about 1:15 p.m., she tied her dog to a leash in the yard. After completing this task, she turned around and noticed that her grandson Dylan was gone. Dorothy ran out of her yard and into the street screaming, pleading with neighbors to call 911, which one did at 1:24 p.m. The police arrived 4 minutes later. However, the search and rescue mission did not start until 3:45 p.m. The community was not notified through Canada's Emergency Management Organization until 4:32 p.m. About 185 feet west of Dorothy's house, there is a waterway called Leper Brook. This brook feeds into the Salmon River about 630 feet downstream. One of Dylan's rubber boots was found in a shopping cart, which was submerged in Leper Brook. The other boot was found about 60 feet downstream, stuck underwater in debris. The location of the second boot was right before Leper Brook meets the Salmon River. No other sign of Dylan Ehler was ever found. The police believe that Dylan walked through the vegetation behind Dorothy's house and made it to Leper Brook. It's also possible that he walked north on Elizabeth Street and then turned west toward Leper Brook. Either way, he ended up in the brook and was swept into the Salmon River. Eventually, this carried him all the way to the Bay of Fundy. Dylan may have been attracted by the sound of the rushing water. At the time Dylan went missing, Leper Brook was overflowing its banks. Later, when the water level was much lower, the police conducted an experiment with a mannequin, which was about the size and weight of Dylan. The mannequin was swept all the way out to the Bay of Fundy. Dorothy helped the police recreate the situation where she put her dog on a leash to see how long she was distracted. It took Dorothy 18 seconds to deal with the dog. Dorothy did not believe that Dylan wandered off. Rather, she insisted that he must have been kidnapped. During the investigation, the police found no evidence of a kidnapping. Initially, the public appeared to empathize with Dylan's mother, Ashley, believing that she was a victim. However, this sentiment changed quickly after worrisome social media posts came to light. A few weeks prior to Dylan's disappearance, Ashley posted a video on a social media platform called TikTok. The video featured her with Dylan. Ashley mouthed the words, "You ever just look at somebody and say to yourself, 'This mother blanker will be the reason I go to jail.'" This is a line from the documentary Tiger King. In another video, Ashley could be seen lip syncing the words, "Will you help me hide a body? Come on, we can't delay. No one can see him on the floor. Get him out the door before he can decay." This was a parody of the song "Do You Want to Build a Snowman" from the movie Frozen. Ashley faced a high level of criticism from people who believed that she may have been involved in Dylan's disappearance. People debated her potential involvement on social media, including Facebook. One Facebook group grew to over 23,000 members, larger than the town that Ashley lived in. One particularly active member was a self proclaimed psychic from New York who claimed that one of Dylan's family members asked her for help. She also claimed that she was receiving information from local area residents. The psychic accused Ashley of sacrificing Dylan to Satan and claimed that she had a vision of Dylan being kicked down a set of stairs. Even though her claims were made without any evidence and she identified as a psychic, some people believed her. Some members of the Facebook groups criticized Ashley for getting her hair cut after Dylan's disappearance, saying that they would not be concerned with such things if their child was missing. Ashley and Jason were targeted by people who photographed their house and followed them around the area, presumably looking for evidence of their involvement in Dylan's disappearance. Jason received notes demanding a ransom, but the police were unable to identify who sent them. The search for Dylan was terminated after 6 days, but the online criticism continued. Eventually, with the help of an attorney, Ashley and Jason were able to stop some of the commentary using a Canadian cyberbullying law, but this did not affect all the critics. The criticism continued. In January 2022, Jason Ehler was arrested and charged with 33 offenses, 11 counts each of fraud, forgery, and false pretenses. This was not related to Dylan's disappearance. Jason had been accused of defrauding 3 banks using account information from someone who had died. Ultimately, the case was referred to the Restorative Justice Program, and the charges were withdrawn. At the time I'm making this video, Dylan Ehler remains missing. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Dylan's parents, Ashley and Jason, have been highly critical of how the police handled the investigation into their son's disappearance. They believe that investigators did not treat Dylan's disappearance like a criminal case, rather only as a search and rescue. The police assumed that no foul play was involved. Jason, in particular, has repeatedly and vigorously accused the police of wrongdoing. He has become such an annoyance, the police will no longer speak to him regarding any updates in the case. Investigators claim that they did everything possible to solve Dylan's disappearance, and they have no regrets about their performance. They never explained why it took them so long to start the search and rescue mission. Item number 2, Dylan's disappearance led to Ashley cutting off all contact with her mother, Dorothy. Again, Dorothy was the one who was watching Dylan when he went missing. She had been distracted by her dog. Both Ashley and Jason believe that Dorothy is withholding information about Dylan's disappearance. Like Dorothy was worried about being charged, therefore, she concealed a critical element of what happened. Investigators have made it clear they believe this was an accident. Dorothy did not commit a crime. Dylan simply wandered off in a brief window when Dorothy was distracted. Item number 3, as Ashley has been busy pointing the finger at her mother, many members of the public have been pointing their fingers at Ashley. They believe that the videos Ashley posted were indicative of a person who wanted to harm her son, or was at least reckless. The two videos, which led to the controversy, are definitely bizarre, but I'm not convinced they in any way foreshadowed Dylan's disappearance. I believe that Ashley had poor judgment and a lot of time on her hands, which is the origin story for many videos on TikTok. This is a far cry from a situation involving any type of nefarious intent. Item number 4, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Dylan Ealer grew up in a chaotic environment. When his parents were forced to separate temporarily due to fighting, Dylan ended up at his grandmother's house for a short visit. His grandmother appeared to be capable of babysitting him. Normally, this interaction should not have been problematic. Through an unusual set of circumstances, Dylan ended up walking, or maybe even running away from Dorothy's house without Dorothy seeing him. If Dylan had been running, he could have made it about 130 feet from his grandmother's yard in 18 seconds. Again, this is the amount of time that Dorothy may have been distracted. This runs under the assumption that Dylan ran continuously and the terrain didn't slow him down. These factors are unlikely, but technically possible. If he went directly toward Leper Brook, he would have been within 55 feet of the water before Dorothy even noticed he was missing. Dylan fell or jumped into the brook, was swept out into the Salmon River, and eventually to the Bay of Fundy. He was almost certainly killed early in this journey. Dorothy did not have the ability to stop Dylan because she did not know what direction he traveled. Racked with feelings of guilt and maybe shame, she said that a kidnapper must have been involved. Perhaps this makes her feel better, but she is to blame for Dylan's disappearance. I don't believe that she committed a crime, and neither do the police, but it was her responsibility to monitor Dylan's behavior and to protect him from harm. This case involved a series of circumstances which conspired to result in tragedy. Dylan was in a yard which was not fully protected by a fence. His grandmother, Dorothy, became distracted. In this short window, Dylan immediately left the yard. He walked or ran to a waterway that was overflowing its banks. He somehow fell or jumped in, which of course led to his death. If any one of these events did not occur, Dylan would still be alive. This case serves as a reminder that caution must always be exercised when caring for children. One never knows which lapse in judgment could lead to disaster. Now, moving to my final thoughts. This case illustrates how the public can turn on the parents of a child who disappeared. It seems clear that Ashley and Jason were not responsible in any way for Dylan's tragic demise. Yet, they have endured false accusations and substantial criticism. Ashley and Jason were not even the ones caring for Dylan when he disappeared. It's not clear how they could have been involved, even if they wanted to be. I think what happens in cases like this is that some members of the public become fixated on solving the mystery. They cannot sit with the uncertainty. They demand to find an answer. When it never comes, they fabricate an answer. In an accidental death like this, there wasn't anyone to blame criminally, so the parents became the obvious target. This case indicates how some people have a lot of spare time. The accusers of Dylan's parents were active on social media. They were wasting time making up stories. It's like they didn't have anything else to do. This points to the idea that a disappearance like this gives people a sense of purpose. Blaming Dylan's parents was not done as part of a legitimate effort to solve the case, rather, simply for people to feel like their lives had significance. They were doing something important, something that matters. It doesn't matter how much pain they cause to innocent people, as long as they can inflate their own self-worth. Those are my thoughts in the case of Dylan Ehler. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.
What do you think of that? I mean, it was a good rundown, I think, of the case itself, but oh, McKiffin, fashionably late. So, anyways, have y'all seen the what is this? Mass Casualty Commission. What did they call themselves? I can't remember. Turning the Tide Together is what they called their inquiry. This was basically on March 30th, 2023, the Mass Casualty Commission released its final report, Turning the Tide Together, in Truro, Nova Scotia, and delivered to the Governors in Council of Nova Scotia and of Canada. The work of the commission has now concluded. So over and done. Yes, over 2,000 pages. I don't think that we're actually going to go through all 2,000 pages, I'm not going to lie. But here you go. I'm going to link it. So if you guys have the time in your busy lives, don't take time out of spending time with me, but when you have spare time, go and have a look in the chat. But what we're going to do is we're going to go directly to the list of recommendations. So anyways, okay, executive summary. So it summarizes everything. Context and purpose, what happened, violence, community, policing, implementation, process, and then there's a spot here for additional documents. Like I said, I am most interested in today is the list of recommendations when it was all said and done. And this itself is over 70 pages long. I think that is a fair assessment. And again, guys, this is 77 pages long. I don't want to read it all to you, but we're just going to go through each one, and if we're interested, we can read through a specific recommendation, right? So framework for tracking mass casualty incidents. So maybe I don't know how to do this because there's no way we can do this in depth, right? But we can gloss over it. All individuals and entities engaged in data collection, research, and policy development, including law enforcement agencies and other authorities, adopt this definition of a mass casualty incident. This is where they kind of explain what they're considering mass casualty. Recommendation number 2, public health approach to preventing mass casualty incidents. The Commission recommends that strategies for prevention of mass casualty incidents should adopt public health approaches that are complex, nuanced, and community-wide, while also addressing the perspectives, experience, and needs of marginalized communities. Recommendation number 3, external evaluation of Rcmp Behavioral Sciences branch. This one is the Commission recommends that the Rcmp commission an expert external evaluation of the behavioral sciences branch to assess the extent to which its policies, procedures, personnel, and work product 1 reflect the best practices set out in Volume 3, Chapter 8 of this final report, and reflect the best practices set out in Volume 3, Chapter 8 of this final report, and why did they say that again? are attentive to and effectively counter the potential operation of bias, stereotypes, and victim blaming. The external evaluation should also make recommendations as to how the behavioral sciences branch can improve its policies, procedures, practices, and training to implement best practices, identity, and counter the operation of stereotypes and victim blaming, and ensure that the failings documented in this final report are not replicated in future work of the branch. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Yeah, they do. We're not the United States. Recommendation number 4, periodic review of Rcmp Behavioral Sciences branch. Number 5, conflict of interest in forensic psychological assessment. So from what I understand, there were husbands and wives working in the same departments, and like I don't know how it affected the actual investigation or the response, but there were husbands and wives working. Like I think husbands were working or wives were working under the husband's supervision type thing, and it's a little crazy. Recommendation number 6, intimate partner violence and police and prosecutorial discretion to lay criminal charges. So that's obviously about domestic violence. Countering victim blaming and hyper responsibilization of women survivors. Women center risk assessments. Creating a safe space to report violence. I don't know if anything in the Jack and Lily case was. No, like nobody, like Malaya didn't report any violence. Daniel has come out and said that he was the one being abused, and he also did not report any violence. So that doesn't really. Replacement of mandatory arrest and charging policies and protocols for intimate partner violence offenses. Again, if they weren't called, external accountability mechanism for policing responses to intimate partner violence. Lots of, so this, and I was told this, you guys, that this leaned heavily on the domestic violence angle for like that's what they blame Gabriel Wortman's decline on. I call bullshit. Epidemic level funding for gender-based violence prevention and interventions. Mobilizing a society-wide response. The Commission recommends that all levels of government in Canada declare gender-based intimate partner and family violence to be an epidemic that warrants a meaningful and sustained society-wide response. I don't know, man. Women-centered strategies and actions. Wow, putting women's safety first. What about children? National Accountability Framework. The federal government established by statute an independent and impartial gender-based violence commissioner with adequate and stable funding and effective powers, including the responsibility to make an annual report to Parliament. Federal government to develop a mandate for the gender-based violence commissioner in consultation with the provincial and territorial governments. So there's nothing. Let's keep going. Strengthening rural well-being through inclusion. Provincial and territorial governments take steps to address urban bias in decision-making by fostering meaningful inclusion of rural communities in all areas affecting them. The federal government supports the inclusion of rural communities in decision-making on issues within their jurisdiction. The fuck? National Resource Hub for Mass Casualty Responses. So I'm looking specifically for the RCMP response to missing child. I don't think it's going to be in here, but they should have hit on more issues that were. I'm very disappointed because that was not the maybe what triggered it. However, so many lives could have been saved if the police's response was different. And I really thought, I would really hope that they would have addressed the response in here. Recommendation C5, the triennial review of the National Public Alerting System. The senior officials responsible for emergency management undertake a review of the National Public Alerting System every 3 years, and that a report on the process and findings of this review be made public. The review include a public engagement component, including national poll about the awareness and assessment of National Public Alerting System. The review take into consideration the diverse needs of people living in Canada, including urban, rural, and remote communities, official language minorities, and marginalized communities. Revitalizing police-based victim services with a duty of care. The RCMP and other police services adopt policies recognizing a duty of care in the provision of services to survivors and affected persons. All police personnel communicating with survivors and affected persons do so pursuant to trauma-informed and victim-centered principles, and that they receive education, mentoring, and support required to integrate these principles effectively. The RCMP policies, protocols, and training recognize the priority of providing to survivors and affected persons full and accurate information at the earliest opportunity, including through regularly scheduled contact updates, even where there is no new information to provide. Including through regularly scheduled contact updates, even where there is no new information to provide. Any holdback information for investigative purposes should be limited in time and scope to that which is truly necessary to protect investigative integrity. Really? Isn't that what we were talking about earlier, guys? I think so. The RCMP should review and revise its next of kin notification policy and protocols. Definitely. The RCMP takes steps necessary to ensure these policies and their implementation fully meet or exceed Nova Scotia policing standards. Affected by mass casualty, proactive pre-critical incident wellness planning, mass casualty, incident response, mainstreaming and increasing availability of mental health services, enhance grief, bereavement, trauma, and resilience literacy, post-mass casualty incident support plans, reversing the course addressing the public health emergency in Colchester, Cumberland, and Hants counties, enacting community safety and well-being laws, This one's interesting. The sharing of personal information between public sectors, including the police, education, health, and social services, and corrections when necessary to achieve the success of the community safety and well-being initiatives while respecting the privacy rights of an individual. I think Belinda would be interested in that. I'm really disappointed. The very, very few things that we could point at their response to Jack and Lily and even Dylan Eller. It's anorexic, really. Gender-based violence, and I'm not saying they're not important issues, they are, but how does this help their community policing? Publicly funded services to poor and marginalized. Oversight of publicly funded services to poor and marginalized communities. All levels of government should monitor the provision of public health services by independent service providers to people of lower economic means and those who are otherwise marginalized to ensure the quality of services being delivered in compliance with professional standards, including ethical codes. Guns, revocation of firearms licenses. Fair. Where's the response? Where's the alert systems? Is that all we get is one little blurb? Gun safety, impersonation, decommissioned vehicles. You know, this is terrible. I mean, I guess they thought even in here, they didn't think that using Twitter was a bad idea. I mean, my big thing is the using Twitter to inform the public, not releasing alerts for missing children, and then not treating these scenes as crime scenes. Like, I don't know enough about Dylan Ellers, but I venture to guess from what I understand that a whole swarm of people showed up there to help look for him, right? Not like Jack and Lily. They needed to secure that scene, and I was really hoping that there would be a recommendation in here about the method of communication to the public and the alert systems used. Like, we know that the Amber Alert, issuing public warnings when an active threat to the public exists. Well, whatever. Police agencies should be prepared to correct or update information as necessary. Police and emergency services agencies should tailor the means by which the public warnings are issued to the location, scale, and duration of the threat. Police and emergency services agencies should ensure the public warnings reach as many community members within an at-risk population as possible. Addressing myths and stereotypes about community responses to public warnings. I don't know. I don't know, you guys. It's public communications after critical incidents. Wow. I guess Twitter's the way to go. I guess that's totally acceptable. Did anybody? Yeah, here you go, Darlene. Here's a link to the full thing. 2,000 pages-ish. So we're just kind of going over it. I really thought that we were going to find something in here about alerting the public. Using their alert systems better, even though Amber Alert system still needs reform. As we know, this Portapic situation, the Rcmp chose to use Twitter as their platform to inform the public, where a lot of people, especially the ones that were out driving, are not monitoring Twitter. So it's you put something like that over the radio, interrupted broadcasting, it probably would have saved lives. And I'm literally not seeing anything that's addressing the complete utter failure of the RCMP to warn the public appropriately of the threat, the actual threat of a man posing as an RCMP officer with a vehicle that looked identical to an RCMP vehicle. And a minimum of 4 people died as a result of either being pulled over or thinking they were actually dealing with an RCMP officer. So that was extraordinarily disappointing. So I guess everybody, I think the message here today is download Twitter, turn on your emergency or your alerts, find the Twitter feed for your local police department or police RCMP, and then turn your notifications on so that if they tweet something out, you might be informed of a dangerous situation in your community. Is that seriously the takeaway from this? It's nothing. So there's nothing we can even compare to their response to Jack and Lily. And maybe that's why there's no pressure to be put anywhere, because nobody is asking these questions. Like, we can sit here until we're blue in the face and ask these questions about the response to Jack and Lily's disappearance, why there was nobody, number one, monitoring who was coming and going, why, as far as we're aware, there was no crime scene investigation done in the house where the kids last were. They didn't close off the scene. They didn't secure any evidentiary items. From what we understand, they didn't do an investigation inside the house collecting evidence or anything like that until much, much later. And then, according to Belinda, they asked her during her interview, the 2 investigators that were interviewing her, she was asked, you know, if she remembered seeing any officer or anybody monitoring the site, or, you know, any kind of law enforcement at the property there watching who was coming and going. When Belinda said no, she only noticed the one officer who was having the disagreement with Janie. The other officer turned around and looked at his partner like, oh yeah. So that to me told me right there that they were aware that that was a contaminated scene right off the hop. So I mean, COVID is not a lie. I had it 4 times. I had it twice before I was vaccinated and twice after. And don't come for me. I got vaccinated because my daughter had a newborn baby, and she was like, she was gonna come and stay with me for a while. So I did it for my grandbaby. Totally regret it now because she, number one, ended up not coming to stay with me. But that's besides the point. But I did have it 2 times before and 2 times after. So the vaccination is a farce for sure, but COVID is very real. Twitter's not good enough by any stretch. Like, there's, I don't know how much passive aggressive I can get with that, but that is bullshit, you guys. I have Twitter turned on to the Alberta Emergency Alert System. That's the only thing I use Twitter for, and the only reason I have that is because there was an Amber Alert years ago for a little boy who had disappeared with his grandparents, and I had went on to turn that on so that I could be updated. So, but as for anything else, I wouldn't know. They need to have, to me, if a child goes missing, any child goes missing under any circumstances, some kind of an alert, and maybe give it a different name other than an Amber Alert, because now we know an Amber Alert is basically when somebody like a dad or something takes the kid, or somebody known to the family, they know who they're looking for, they know what kind of vehicle to keep an eye out for, or somebody witnessed something happen. That's an Amber Alert. But for these kids that just vanish, they evaporate into thin air, is what we're supposed to believe. They need an alert system that's not a vulnerable person's alert that takes hours to get to, even a few towns over. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, in my opinion. So, oh, there's another one. There's another one. I'm going to go. There were a number of these. Because we're digging into the RCMP today. We're digging in. Nova Scotia RCMP officer charged with assault placed on administrative duties. This is January 31st, 2025. The province's police watchdog says the officer assaulted a woman he knows while he was off duty on December 20th. In a news release, the RCMP say Constable Reese Smith has been placed on administrative duties and an internal investigation has begun. Smith is scheduled to appear in Nova Scotia Provincial Court in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia on February 19th. RCMP Chief Superintendent Dan Morrow says the criminal charge is disconcerting and undoubtedly alarming. He says the RCMP take all allegations of misconduct seriously and the force has high expectations of its officers. We'll see about that. July 22nd, 2025, so a mere 6 months later. Nova Scotia's Police Oversight Agency says an RCMP officer in Inverness County is facing a sexual assault charge. The CERT, Serious Incident Response Team, released a statement Tuesday saying it has reasonable and probable grounds to believe that Constable Manus Perry committed the offense. The police watchdog says it received a referral from the RCMP on May 17th after a woman alleged that she was sexually assaulted by one of their officers. Nova Scotia RCMP Chief Superintendent and Criminal Operations Officer Dan Morrow, same guy, issued a statement Tuesday saying Perry is currently suspended with pay, basically a holiday. They're paying this guy to not work. Morrow said the RCMP takes all allegations of misconduct very seriously and Perry's duty status will be continuously assessed throughout the court process and its own internal review. Perry is set to appear before the Nova Scotia Provincial Court in Port Hawkesbury, Nova Scotia on August 19th, and the allegations have not been tested in court. That's the same guy. That was totally a boilerplate, response that he gave the first time, and now the second time. Harley, don't hit the table. Harley's here, everybody. Hi, Harley. Yeah, back up. Get out of there. He's under my desk. Anyway, well, wait, guys, there's more. Do you want to say hi? Say hi. Hi, Harley. He's a good boy. Okay, we're going to continue. Okay. Retired Nova Scotia Mountie charged with sexual assault. October 15th, 2025. Nova Scotia's police watchdogs has laid sexual assault charges against a now retired RCMP officer. In a media release, the Serious Incident Response Team, CERT, says the incidents are alleged to have occurred while the officer was with the RCMP and after his retirement. Retired Sergeant Daryl W. Johnson was charged Wednesday with 3 counts of sexual assault and is expected to appear in a Port Hawkesbury courtroom next month. In a statement following the CERT announcement, the commanding officer for the RCMP in Nova Scotia says though charges are deeply distressing. The RCMP remains steadfast in its commitment to integrity and accountability, reads a statement from Dennis Daly. We take all allegations of misconduct seriously, and our members are expected to uphold and surpass the high standards rightly demanded by Canadians. According to the RCMP, Johnson served with the RCMP in Nova Scotia from 2002 until his retirement in 2023. I would like to know how that's possible because they usually get bounced around, right? And just really quickly, I want to have a look because if I'm not mistaken, one of those fellers is was on the Jack and Lily investigation. Does anybody know who that is? One of them was removed because of a pending sexual assault hearing. I'm not seeing his name. But oh my gosh, Harley farted and then left. What a dog. Kenzie, Hall, Hayes, Berthium, Daw, McDonald, McIntyre, Donaldson, Tishunchuk, Gannon, Mason. Maybe this list was after. What do you think? Does anybody remember? Where's Seawood? Where is Seawood? Sometimes I think we expect too much from our police, who have limited budgets and resources. There is corruption in every organization and bad people as well. 100% absolutely, for sure. But when it comes to small children, there's no excuse for mismanaged responses, in my opinion, in this day and age. You have a report of 2 missing kids and you have searchers show up as quickly as they did. There is no reason why that scene shouldn't have been protected. I'm not saying corruption or anything else. I'm saying, like, incident response for dummies. Like, of course you want to protect the scene because you have no idea what happened. And you know what? If it turns out the kids are hiding in a closet or whatever, or if they're found in the woods, perfect. Then you can release the scene. But the first things first, you go and you protect that scene. People want to come in and out, you take names. But only after you've searched the area for footprints, for anything. It's just crime scene investigation 101. And even if it's not a crime, there's small children gone. Something happened to them. Yeah, he is, but he was just out. He was just out, Ginger. McNutt? Is that him? Okay. Yeah. Also, the Bridgewater police chief, sexual assault on underage victim of, wow. Yeah, but I don't think there are a whole lot of McNutts in the RCMP involved in the Jack and Lily investigation who is no longer involved. So, oh, all right, you guys. That was less than fruitful. Yeah, I'm not seeing McNutt on this list from the documents that Travis and I went through yesterday. This very well could have been after he was removed. I don't know. There was no McNutt on the case. Interesting. You can't paint all officers with the same brush, just like, no, you absolutely can't. And I know that there is a old documentary out there. It's called The Thin Blue Line. And it is literally an officer who agreed to be like totally old school videotaped while he walked his beat in East Hastings in North Vancouver, downtown Vancouver. And this would be during the time that Robert Pickton was actually hunting for his prostitutes that he was killing. And to follow him around on his beat day to day, you can see how if you were doing that sort of work for a long time, you'd become jaded. And the thing that I always like to tell people is when you come into contact with any kind of law enforcement or first responder, their day to day is usually dealing with people on their worst days. So it takes a very strong character to overcome that amount of negativity day after day. You know what I'm saying? So when you're usually when you're meeting a police officer while they're on duty, you're not generally doing so under fun circumstances or friendly circumstances. Which case, Cool Jay? If you're talking about Jack and Lily, and I'm just gonna give my 2 thoughts, even though you weren't talking to me, my 2 thoughts is there was no crime scene, but we had a property where a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old went missing from. And to me, even if it's not a crime scene, you still need to protect that scene. And you don't have to do the whole, taping it off, whatever, but you should have a law enforcement representative or monitor there, watching people coming and going, making sure you know every single person that's coming and going and what they're doing while they're there. Are they just there to comfort the mom? Are they digging through garbage bins? And under no circumstances, once the RCMP arrived, should Daniel have been out in those woods. Probably a little too late, but you get what I'm saying. Just because there's no evidence of a crime, 2 little children are missing, so they truly needed to protect that scene better than they did. Just my opinion. And I mean, not even like I said, I get it. It's crime scene 101, but I don't know. Maybe that needs reform too. They did, and then they allowed him to go in later on. And I know that they've questioned him a couple of times about what he did and what route he took before the RCMP arrived that morning, like where he searched. So I'm confident that the RCMP are investigating this. And people say, oh, major crimes. The investigative team, I believe, are investigating it to the best of their abilities. But I do think, and I believe with like in my bones, I believe that whole scene was contaminated right from the get. So, freaking out about Amber Alerts. Yeah, you and me both. Again, you guys go over to my community and sign that petition. Do I have my community? I do not, but I can get the petition. Just give me a sec. I'm going to find that petition and go to my studio. With my community. That's not it. I'm on YouTube. Now visit community. Here we go. So here is the link for it's Darius's Law. It's literally just, it's not just for Darius. It's not just for Alberta. It is Amber Alert Reform nationally. So if you can't click this link that I'm posting right now, go to my community. It's posted. Oh, that's hilarious. Look, it's 3 posts long. What the deuce? Just a second. Let me see if I can, yeah. Get a shorter link here for you guys. Just 1 second. That one work better? Nope, just as long. Oh no, I guess it is. So yeah, head over to the community page and click the link if you can't click this one in here and go sign that petition. I will continue working on getting the Darius's Law Advocate and the Amber Alert Reform Advocate on, and Darius's mom's friend. Darius's grandma is also a distinct possibility. And Ian's home from work just in time for me to say goodbye to everybody. I will see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Oh, thanks, Lynn. I clicked your comment and then I didn't read it out loud, but thank you. To me, it was a waste just because the mass casualty response, yeah, super important, but so was the public alert system. And that's what I was looking for in there, and it wasn't there to be found. So yeah, email me what you know about Dylan. And I don't mind having Jason come up with me, even if he is crazy pants. I'll do it. It's good that social media is involved in cases. Did you ever see the documentary Don't Fuck with Cats? Absolutely. You betcha. And we're not afraid to talk about the things that the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about. So, you know. But I'll see you all later. Have a wonderful evening, and I don't know, be kind. Bye. Bye.
We're going down the rabbit